pod bay doors.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of The Cinematic Traveler. I am your intrepid movie exploring host, Chris, and on this episode, it's that time. I'm so excited. It's the kickoff for our summer blockbuster season with the biggest movie star in the world, Tom Cruise, bringing us the latest in the Mission Impossible franchise. This one entitled Final Reckoning, directed by Christopher McQuarrie. And I, just like a lot of you, I'm a huge fan of this film series, so I cannot wait to tell you about this movie. Before I do, though, I do have to ask a favor. Whatever you're watching or listening to the show on, somewhere there is a follow or subscribe button. If you could please hit that button, I'd appreciate it, as it does help me and the show, but it also helps you. You won't miss any of my future reviews, and you can go back and listen to my previous amazing reviews and hear my sexy, sexy voice. And on some of them, you get to see my sexy, sexy face, should you choose to accept that mission. I hope you're doing well out there, my beloved listener, enjoying the warmth of the summer months. I know you're excited for this, so what the hell? Let's just dive into this film. Now, before I get to my review, I do have to over-explain a couple of things. I am going to give you a spoiler-free review, as well as a spoiler-free plot synopsis. And in this plot synopsis, I have hidden a movie quote from another movie that shares some DNA with this film or runs a little parallel to it. If you can identify this quote and get in touch with me through Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod, or my email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com, or in the comment section on YouTube or whatever you're listening to the show on your podcast, just leave comments. I'll find it. I promise I will find it. And I will give you a point. And at the end of the month, I add up all the points, and whoever wins gets to pick a movie for me to review next month. Oh my God, how exciting. How exciting is that? That is more exciting than Tom Cruise hanging off the wing of an airplane. Admit it. If you could choose the two, you would much rather pick a movie for me to review than hang off the wing of an airplane, at least if you're a rational, sane human being. And I know this all seems a little uncool, but that's the best time of the week to be uncool with Chris. You could also just play if you're listening every now and then, or this is the first time you're listening, just to let me know you're out there. I would appreciate it, as it gets a little lonely behind my fort of blankets. So let's go ahead and talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun on the bun.
We open the movie with Ethan Hunt, again played by Tom Cruise, once again eluding capture as he tracks down the film's human villain, Gabriel, played by S.I. Morales. Now, Gabriel is trying to gain control of the Entity, an all-powerful AI that has the world on the brink of nuclear war. With life as we know it hanging in the balance, the leaders of the world can only think of one man with enough charisma, charm, testosterone to save the world. Unfortunately for them, I was busy recording this episode, so they had to turn to Ethan Hunt and ask him to organize his IMF team and stop Gabriel and the Entity. Ethan and his team, consisting of some people and Haley Atwell, must traverse the globe to find the thing to connect with the other thing to stop the AI thing. None of that is important, as we just want to see Tom Cruise jumping like a wild man from one airplane to another, risking his life to entertain us because, as he would say, that's right, Ice, I am dangerous. Hint, hint. Will he be able to keep you on the edge of your seat, or is that mission impossible? Well, see what I did there? That was pretty good. Well, I am not going to ruin this movie and answer those questions, but I will give you the best review for Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning in all of the podcaster YouTuber universe, nay, in all of the universe. And I know that was a bit of a scarce plot synopsis, as it were. There's not a whole lot to these. Well, I mean, actually, there is a whole lot to this movie. But you know what? You know what the plots of these movies are. You got to go get the thing, Ethan, and he has to go off and do it. So we'll get into a little more of the details as we go along. I did mention I love all of these movies. I know Mission Impossible 2 isn't highly regarded. I'll agree with that. And probably the worst one in the series. But I think from Mission Impossible 3 straight on through to Fallout. I think those are some of the best movies in this type of genre, action, spy thriller stuff, maybe ever. I think Fallout is probably one of the best action movies in the history of action movies. That movie just comes at you nonstop. So this being the culmination of all of these films and also the sequel to Dead Reckoning, which not a lot of people saw apparently, because well, we'll get into that in the negatives. But yeah, I was super excited. I'm always excited for Tom Cruise. You know, he builds these movies up and he shows you these crazy fucking stunts that he did. God bless you, Tom. God bless you. If you keep doing this stuff, I'll show up. I don't care how good or bad the movie is. If you're risking your life, the least I can do is spend a little money to sit in a cozy theater and eat my popcorn and Coke and enjoy your death-defying stunts. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the positives of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Sounds pleasant.
And I know what you all want to talk about. There's only one thing that anybody wants to talk about in these movies. That's the stunts. Oh, should I tell you about the airplane stunt yet? Or shall I make you wait, tease you a little bit? Anticipation is half the fun. So I've been told. So we're going to start with the other segment that I really liked in this movie. There is a moment where Ethan has to go to the submarine, the Russian submarine that crashed in Dead Reckoning that started all of this, that had the AI on it. He has to go underwater in the Arctic Circle or whatever and swim through this damaged wreck of a submarine as it's starting to roll off the hill or the cliff or whatever you want to call it in the sea. That's, you know, it's rolling around and he's in there trying to find this device that will help him beat the entity in Gabriel. One of the best set pieces in the film. Actually, there's really only two big ones. But this one, whoa, it's amazing. And I'm not sure, there has to be a lot of practical in this. I haven't seen into behind the scenes stuff with the submarine part. I'm assuming there was some kind of, like they did in Inception, where they had that room where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fighting, you know, and they had it, like, I guess on a gimbal and it spun around and all that fun stuff. I would assume that's kind of what they did here, because it looks pretty realistic with Tom having to wade through water, and sometimes he's in the air and there's air pockets and then it's back underwater and there's things falling and he's got to get out of there. And it's a really great scene because there's no dialogue. Well, all right. I'm gonna call the movie out for this, and this is a nitpick. It has one line of dialogue in it, and that is to educate the stupid people in the audience about what's gonna happen next. I understood, not that I'm saying I'm superior to everybody. I mean, I am, obviously, because I have a podcast and a YouTube channel, so I'm far superior to everybody else sitting in a movie theater. But I knew what was going to happen. I knew where he was going, but it was one of those lines that he says to no one because he's the only one in the room, so that he could tell the people in the audience, whoa, where's it going? Oh, okay, now we know. Outside of that, there's no dialogue in the scene, which I was really enjoying. It's just all action, and it's got this really kick-ass music playing and it's really foreboding, and all this stuff's going on. So amazing stunt scene. Gets you on the edge of your seat. And okay, all right, I'm done with the teasing. Let's go ahead and just tear off our clothes and get into it. What is this fucking show about? The airplane scene, with the biplanes, where Tom Cruise, you've seen it in the trailers, where he's hanging off one wing of the airplane and jumping onto the, my god, one of the best stunt sequences I may have ever seen in any movie ever in the history of ever. If it's not the best, I'm guaranteeing top 5. There were points in this scene, this section of the movie, where I had to remind myself to breathe. And I felt stupid because I've seen all of these movies before. I know Tom's going to survive because we've seen him at the premieres. But yeah, that stunt, I don't know, Tom. You are just a wild man to do that. It is absolutely incredible. It's amazingly shot. Christopher McQuarrie, he can film action sequences like nobody else. And Tom, you know, he's giving it all. But my God, he's just out there on that wing. How in the hell he survived that? I'm sure there were some extra cables. Maybe they CGI'd out or something. But still, holy shit. An amazing sequence worthy of seeing on the big screen. There isn't really much to spoil about it. I don't want to give away details on how, but it is absolutely incredible to know what's going on up there and that it was real and that it was really Tom Cruise hanging on. Oh my God. Like I said, he's jumping from one to the other. It's crazy. It is crazy. And I was on the edge of my seat through the whole segment of it. As I mentioned, there were times where I was like, breathe, Chris, breathe. So that tells you how good that scene is. So obviously those are the main things y'all want to hear about. So yes, it's a Mission Impossible movie. When it does get to the stunts, it delivers high quality, well-paced action that will, like I said, it'll leave you breathless, keep you on the edge of your seat. I hope you finish your popcorn before you get there, because you'll probably be choking. They'll have to take you out and you'll ruin the whole movie experience for everybody in the theater, you selfish son of a bitch. But anyway, of course, another positive is Tom Cruise. You get a lot of Tom Cruise in this movie that we'll get to later, but he knows how to play this role. He's the movie star, the action star. He knows when to bring the levity. He can do one of those things that I think the best action stars can do, is they can convey emotion through a look in a high intensity action moment. I think Harrison Ford is the best at this in Indiana Jones. He could always, like, he was like the audience. He would see a moment and you're in the audience, you're thinking, oh shit. And he would have a look on his face like, yeah, oh shit. Well, Tom Cruise can do that as well. And he does that fine here. I mean, this is nothing to him. Although, as I mentioned, how the hell he had the balls to get on an airplane and do that shit like he did. My God. I'd love to sit down and talk to him just one time. Maybe I'll have to try to reach out, do an interview. Do you think he would sit down with the most influential movie reviewer in YouTube podcaster history? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to reach out to him. I'm moving into the next positive since we're on the acting. The rest of the cast is fine. I have some issues we'll get to in a minute. But of course, you got Simon Pegg coming back as Benji. That's, again, another role that he can step right in. You've got Ving Rhames back as Luther. It's always great to see Ving Rhames in anything. You have some really cool callbacks and older characters from the film series that return to the movie. So it was kind of neat how it tied things together. And of course, you've got Haley Atwell. Have I mentioned Haley Atwell? Yeah. Yeah, there was a moment, Christopher McQuarrie, I will shake your hand, where she is performing CPR on a character in slow motion in a tank top. And yeah, that was a high quality moment for me in the movie theater. So yeah, everybody does their part fine. I'll get to some issues I have with characters and whatnot when we get to the negatives. And I did mention something briefly, but another positive for this movie is, yes, it does connect pretty much all of the films in the series to this last moment. There's really one nice callback to Mission Impossible 3 that answers a question a lot of people had. And not to give anything away, but if you know J.J. Abrams, who directed Mission Impossible 3, which I like a lot, he's not one for revealing details. It's just not in his style. He sets up a mystery it never ends. Well, this movie does answer some of those questions. But yeah, it's really cool how everything interconnects. And like I said, they bring back some older characters all the way back from the first movie. So it was kind of fun how they did all of that to have this, I'm hoping, final film of the series, because I think it'll wrap it up nicely with, like, again, all these connections. And you're like, boom, okay, we've got it, everything we needed right here. Let's be done with it, Tom. And my next positive is Christopher McQuarrie's direction. We'll get into some issues here in a little bit, but as far as the action stuff, the guy knows how to film an action scene. Him and Tom Cruise work really well together in coming up with these crazy scenarios for Ethan Hunt to be in. And Christopher McQuarrie puts that camera right there. I mean, you are hanging on that airplane with Tom Cruise. You're in the submarine with him. You feel every, wave of cold water or the air coming through your hair, or what's left of it for some of us when he's on the airplane. So it really does intensify the action and makes it, again, more of this on the edge of your seat experience, where you're kind of gripping things really tight, like, oh my God, is he going to make it? Even though in the back of your head, he is. But it is still well-crafted action in that regard. And there are some lighter moments that are filmed very well. I think, like I said, I'm going to get in a few things here in a moment about the negatives to the film. But overall, I think Christopher McQuarrie is a talented director. And as I mentioned, him and Tom Cruise, they've got a good relationship on screen, and you can tell. And my final positive for this movie, I'm not sure if I had mentioned this, but Haley Atwell. Haley Atwell. Okay. So as exciting as the movie was at moments, it's not without its faults. So let's move into the negatives of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Now, as much as I praised Christopher McQuarrie for his direction, I will say this movie, it's way too long. It is bloated. And as much as a fan of this series as I am and as excited as I was to get there, there's a point about 30 minutes into this movie where I was like, oh shit, we're in trouble here if this movie keeps going like it is, because I'm not going to make it to the final action sequences. I think because the last movie, Dead Reckoning, didn't do quite as well as they had hoped, or maybe it hasn't been seen by that many people. I don't know. But the first 30 to 45 minutes of this movie are nothing but exposition, trying to catch you up on what happened in the last movie. You get a hell of a lot of that. In fact, it gets to be ad nauseum at point. There's a point where Ethan is called in front of the president of the United States, played by Angela Bassett, who I would vote for. But at any rate, I think that scene could have been the exposition we needed to catch us up from the last one. They could have had a little action sequence, that scene, and then move into this movie, and it would really have saved a lot of the pacing issues that I had with this movie. I don't want to say bored. I got restless. I was like, okay, we know, let's move on. Because again, you get a lot of characters going, remember when this and this and then you even get flashbacks on the screen to old characters, to old moments in other movies, and a lot to the previous movie to try to keep you up to date on all of this shit with the entity and everything like that. So yeah, this movie's too long and it's too bloated. They really needed to shave it off. The best movies in this series, as I mentioned, Fallout, it just feels like it's moving at a breakneck pace and you barely have time to catch your breath before the next big action sequence. This one, I'm going to warn you, it's going to take probably 30 to 40 minutes for this movie to really get moving. But once it does, you're in for a fun ride. I think the next negative for the film is the villains, whatever you want to call the entity, or Skynet. That's pretty much what it is, because it's making the decision to end everyone's lives. I kept waiting for Arnold to show up. Are you Ethan Hunt? But yeah, that's basically the plot of that. I watched that. I was like, oh, this is very much like that. It also steals a little bit of a sequence from Hunt for Red October, revolving around the submarine stuff. But at any rate, yeah, the villains, Gabriel, he's not that interesting. He wasn't interesting in the last movie. And the entity stuff, you just kind of got to buy into it. So I didn't really care much for that. Our next negative for the movie is the team part of the film. This one, you don't get a whole lot with the team. They've got a few segments here and there, but unlike the others where it feels like as they're going along in the movie, everybody's important to the group and they all have their role to play. This one just feels like they're there to remind us, oh yeah, there's Benji and there's Haley Atwell and these other people. Okay, so there they are. Okay, let's go back to Tom. And as much as I do love Haley Atwell, her character in these last two movies, I just did nothing for me other than enjoying the scenery on the screen. I wish they would have kept Rebecca Ferguson, Ilsa, from the previous movies. I think it would have had more of an impact in the movie at certain stages where Ethan Hunt's going through stuff and there's a woman beside him. If it would have been Ilsa, I think it would have been, again, more emotional because we have been invested in that character. Haley Atwell, I don't know much about her character. I couldn't even remember what brought her into these movies in the last one. So I wish they'd have done something either different with her character or just let Rebecca Ferguson. I don't know if there's contract. I don't know why they changed, but at any rate, I wish they'd have kept Rebecca Ferguson in there. And my final negative for this film, this is kind of a big one. Maybe I shouldn't say this if I want to actually talk to Tom Cruise, but this feels very much like a vanity project. You get a lot of Tom Cruise in this film. You get a lot of Tom Cruise in his underwear for some reason. I will say, he plays the role very well, of course, and he can bring the humor when it needs to, and he does the action stuff amazing. I mean, brilliant stuff. Like I said, that airplane shit, oh my God, I'm still hyperventilating from it. But you get a bunch of characters. Oh, Ethan Hunt's the greatest, and he's pure, and he's just brilliant, and he's the only one we can trust, over and over. We're like, okay, we get it, Tom. You're the bestest ever. You're the superhero of the movie. You're flawless. Everything is perfect. We get it. And like I said, you get a lot of him separated out from the team. So you miss that dynamic. So it feels very much like this is just Tom Cruise's movie as opposed to the Mission Impossible movies that we're kind of used to. I mean, he was always forefront in those movies, but as I mentioned, you always had sort of a dynamic with the team where they were all important to the mission. And this just felt like they only had one task to do, and that was about it. So be warned, you get some extra overdoses of Tom Cruise, especially in a movie that's over 2.5 hours long. It just got to be, yeah. By the end, when you have yet another character, oh, here, Ethan, you're so perfect in every way. It was just like, shut the fuck up. Can we get back to the airplane stuff? That's more fun to me. So those are my major negatives for the movie. There's other stuff with the dialogue and the script is kind of all over the place. It's just not as tight as the other movies in the series. There's a lot of bloat. That's the easiest way to tell you the negative of this movie. It is just too much movie. And I know that sounds weird because with this type of movie, you want to have a lot of action and stuff, but it takes a good half of this movie before you get there. However, when you get there, it is a fun ride. So overall, do I recommend seeing it in the movie theater? If you have a lot of patience and you can make it through the first, like I said, 30, 45 minutes of the movie and all the exposition dumps, once he gets to going to the submarine and you go through all of that, yeah, the movie's great. It finds its groove. It's a Mission Impossible movie. He's the action star. You're digging it. I've mentioned, I think it's worth going to the movie theater just to see the airplane stuff, to see him doing what he's doing on the big screen, jumping from these biplanes and all this shit. I mean, it is absolutely insane. And I'll mention it again. I did have to remind myself to breathe that's something because I have seen a shit ton of movies over the years. So I'm kind of numb to a lot of things, but I found myself, I was laughing at myself. I was like, Chris, it's a movie, but I was really feeling the tension of that scene. It is masterful. So I will give this movie a very tepid yes. Go see it in the movie theater. Just know that the first half of the movie, it's going to drag. And you get a lot of ego on this screen. This is very much a vanity project. However, as I mentioned at the beginning, Tom, I will come see every movie you do because of the shit that you put up on that screen, that you will risk your life for me to come watch this movie to keep me entertained. So, yeah, I do recommend it. It's not a high recommendation. I wish this was better. I will say the series kind of peaked for me at Fallout. As I mentioned, I think that's one of the best action movies ever. Really, that movie is just relentless with the action and the sequences where you're like, holy shit, how can they top this? And then they top it on the next sequence. So it's an incredible movie. I think the last two have been good because I think Tom Cruise is incapable of making really bad movies, especially these types of movies. And it has the action, it delivers that, but there's just too much bloat. The bad guys aren't really that interesting. And as I mentioned, you're getting a lot more ego in this movie than any of the other ones. So, yeah, I was disappointed, but I will say the action sequences in this are absolutely incredible. And I would recommend going to see it for that. I'm hoping that this is the last one. I know Tom's in his 60s, but he said he's going to keep doing action movies till he's 100. And I will let you know, Tom, I know you're listening. Please don't be too angry at me with this review, but I know you're listening. Just know that you will have my money every time you make one of these movies because you are a crazy man for the shit that you will do on that screen. That airplane sequence is going to be studied in stunt work for the rest of the history of cinema. It's that good. So, yeah, I'll give you a very tepid recommendation to see it in a movie theater just because of the grandness of those action sequences. Just be warned, you're going to get restless at various points in the movie. So I guess that kind of wraps up my review. Wish it would have been better. That's all I could really say. I mean, the stuff it does deliver, though, is just incredible. So I guess I'll stop rambling on. If you've made it this far into the episode, I must have done something right. And if I did, again, if you could please follow, subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, family, loved ones, incredibly overpowered AI. Just share the damn show. Find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod. I'm on all the other ones, but I really don't go on there very often. And if you want to play the contest, let me know what movie it's from in the comment sections or on Instagram or my email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. Now, I will be back next week. I think we've got a horror movie coming out from the directors of Talk to Me. This one is called Bring Her Back. So I enjoyed Talk to Me. I'm curious to see what they follow that up with. Also, you are going to get to hear this sexy, sexy voice on another show. I am going to be on Reels of Cinema with our friend Frank Mendoza. We did an episode where we recorded talking about Raging Bull and Goodfellas, and it's always fun to talk Martin Scorsese. That episode should be out relatively soon after I release this review. So you definitely want to find Reels of Cinema and check out my episode there. Go support his show and support me being on another show. Come on, show the love. Show the love. Now, before I go, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch or listen to my show. I tell everyone I know I've got the smartest and sexiest audience in all the podcast YouTuber universe, and you never fail to live up to those high standards. How do you do it? How do you do it? You make Haley Atwell look average. That's how sexy you are. Now, as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball bouncing through the cosmos, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out and do that voodoo that you do so well.
All right, show's over. I'm tired.